Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Mike Dunbar got him back. Mamba Exploration, ASX code is M24. Last time I spoke to Mike, a couple of months ago, we actually did, I guess, a winter update, and I've asked him to come back, excuse me, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I'm going to call this springing into summer update, but also I noticed they have an announcement out about entering into an option agreement about a rare earth project. So I want to go into that as well. Mike, welcome back to Small Caps. Thanks for coming back and joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. It's good to be back and to be able to give you an update. So it's been a busy time since we caught up last, that's for sure.
Okay, so if it's been a busy time, what you've been doing? Look, before we go into exactly what you've been doing, you've got projects in the north, projects in the south. Quick overview of those projects, and then let's get into this rare earth announcement.
Yeah, absolutely, no dramas. As I mentioned last time, we've got projects we work in winter up in the northern part of WA, and projects we work in the southern part of Western Australia during summer. Up during winter, we were active up in the Kimberley. We've collected a number of soil samples. We're just working up getting the analysis back for that and working those samples back up to the Copper Flats area. We identified a number of conductive horizons for copper and silver mineralisation up at Copper Flats. We were going to fly at a large EM survey late this year. That's been delayed because the contractor's equipment isn't available yet. So that's actually going to be happening early in January. And we also progressed our Ashburton project as well. So we've been pretty busy up north. But as it started to spring into spring, so to speak, we've now moved our activities down to the southern part of Western Australia. Apologies, my phone's ringing. That was really bad timing.
You know what? I didn't even hear the phone ringing. Could have been someone important. Never mind.
So apologies for that. So we've been busy up north. We've now moved focus down to the southern part of Western Australia. So just last week, 2 weeks ago, we announced we were starting a program of drilling down at the Great Southern Project at Calliup Creek for gold. We were planning to drill around 1,500 metres down there. Unfortunately, due to the wet weather, and everyone on the East Coast will understand what wet weather's all about, we had to cut that program slightly short. We ended up drilling around 1,100 metres on that project before the wet weather stopped us getting the last few holes done. That program's now finished. And so we've been busy down there drilling that program, and just literally last week finished that program. Those samples are now in the lab, and we should get results back as quickly as the lab can turn them around. I'd like to think in the next month. That's generally, it's been taking around that long. So early in the new year, we should have news on that, which is great. But while we've been working on that project and the team has been working down there, other opportunities have arisen in the wheat belt of Western Australia. So we've been active and working on our Darling Range project, where we've got a lookalike for the Julimar discovery, an ultramafic system that we're exploring there. That area is they're harvesting the area at the moment. We'll get access to that to be able to do some ground EM probably the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then drilling that in January of next year as well. So we've effectively shifted focus into the southern part, but then also this new opportunity arose from some private individuals who had a tenement package around Hyden in the eastern wheat belt of Western Australia, around about 100 kilometres north of our Calliup Creek project and 300 kilometres east of Perth. So it's a rare earth project we've got an option over for all of the rare earth rights to 4 exploration licenses which have been granted. And now we've secured an extra 5 exploration licenses around it under application as well. So we've been pretty busy, not only on our existing projects, but evaluating new opportunities as well.
It's interesting. You just mentioned it was an option agreement rather than outright acquisition. Is that because it's too early for you to be able to do the complete due diligence? Like, I just want to know what was the the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, good question. Personally, I like doing option deals and option agreements because it gives us exclusivity into the project area. We can then go and, in our own time and in an agreed time frame, do the detailed due diligence we need to do before committing to purchasing the project and issuing in this case, $1 million worth of shares. So what it does, option agreements, we pay a small fee up front, in this case, $25,000 up front.
Okay.
We've committed to doing a certain amount of due diligence work and exploration on the tenements between now and when the option term expires. And we can then progress, do our due diligence. But yes, this particular project is early stage, so we need to do more work to fully appreciate the system and the potential before we commit to issuing $1 million worth of shares. So it's a way of protecting the capital structure of the company and protecting our shareholders from just doing an acquisition and then in 6 months' time, for example, if we were to purchase not this project, because this project I'm pretty sure we're going to be progressing with, but if we were to do an option agreement and halfway through we find something that creates a fatal flaw for the asset, we'd have to walk away from it, and the capital structure would already have been copped the dilution of that acquisition price. So it's a way of protecting our shareholders from dilution through an acquisition rather than using a small amount of cash to secure exclusive rights.
This is a rare earth project, as you said, across 4 exploration licenses. Rare earths are a bit of flavour of the month at the moment. You know, everyone's talking rare earths. My question is, why would the vendors go into an option agreement with you when there's just so much interest in rare earths? Why didn't they just find someone to give them a whole chunk of change and do it that way? Why did they go with you, Mike?
Yeah, good question. Number of reasons. We have worked with the particular vendors in the past, and we've acquired a couple of other projects from them in the past. So that there's history and mutual respect between us and them for a start. So that goes a long way. It's very early stage for them. They've been very interested in a graphite occurrence on the property, and so they've been in the last 3 or 4 years exploring for that, and didn't really appreciate the potential rare earth opportunity. But also, rare earth exploration is not for the faint-hearted and not for privateers in a lot of respects, because assays are pretty expensive. A full suite of lithium boron fusion assay, for example, is about $80 a sample. So you really can't, as a private group, do too much of that before you need to find a big brother to help. And in that case, the opportunity arose for us to come in, do during an option period, do $25,000 worth of exploration to secure during the option period to progress the exploration, understand more about the system, and then decide whether it's going to be for us or not. Now, in this particular case, yes, rare earths are flavour of the month, if you like, but in this case, it's just so unknown, and the potential of the system is wide open, and such to have received assays that are such high grade is going to warrant progressing the project in one way, shape, or form. The other thing I would mention about rare earths is there are 2 camps of rare earth projects. The first one is clay-hosted deposits.
Yep.
And the second one is hard rock assets. So there are 2 very different project styles, if you like, and understanding each of those different styles pushes you one way or the other. So, for example, they've only assayed three samples, 1 sample per drill hole from 3 of the 28 holes they drilled. One of those samples came back 46,000 plus change of rare earth oxides from the analysis. Now, and that is in a clay zone. That could have come from two sources. It could be clay. It could be just rare earths in the clay itself, which would be unusual because most clay rare earth deposits are between 800 ppm and 2000. They're not 46,700. So, this is orders of magnitude higher grade than that one sample's magnitude of grade difference compared to a normal rare earth project. So that's really unusual and is going to warrant some substantial investigation as to why that is. The other potential option is it may be from a hard rock source. Now, hard rock rare earth deposits are often 1%, 1.5%. Some of the best ones in the world will be 3 or 4%, which is the kind of grades we've got here. So where's this rare earth grade coming from? What's driving it, and why is it there for a start? And how do we best explore for it going forward really is the key for us now. So really interesting time.
Mike, I want to know, what did you think when it came back and identified that zone of 46,700 in clays? Did you scratch your head and say, maybe it's been salted?
I didn't believe it. Full stop, I didn't believe it. I don't know if it would be possible to salt rare earths. I have no idea how to do that. So having been a gold geologist, that's a different story. And there's all these myths about salting samples. But rare earth, something like that, look, it was too good to be true. One of the first things we did before we even entered the agreement is we got our portable XRF machine and went out to site to try and find the sample pile. And most of the sample piles have been destroyed by the cropping because it's in farmland. And so in the process of cropping, all of the samples have been destroyed, and so we couldn't go back and resample with confidence. So we managed to find the one pile that we thought was going to be the one holding the 46,000. And yes, it did sample or assay with the XRF, very anomalous. I can't remember the exact grade, but it was, I think, in the order of 3.4, 3.8%. So that gave us confidence that the assay was real for a start. Yeah. Not that I was questioning the legitimacy of the ALS analysis. I was not at all, but something like that is just so unusual. A large amount of healthy skepticism, I think, is wise because it's so out of what you'd expect. So we did that, checked a number of the one sample that they had. We assayed that pulp as well. Again, that came back with similar grades. So it's real. I didn't believe it to be honest to start with, but we've checked it so many times that it's real.
Okay, so look, I want to come into what you're going to be doing in a moment. I think the market suddenly, because I checked your share price, and the market seems to like what they're hearing, but it's really early days, ladies and gentlemen. This is early days. So don't get overexcited, even though that number is insane. So is the cropping currently there? When can you go back in? What are the plans coming into 23? Because I'm talking to you now in December.
Yeah. Couple of things that I suppose for a number of investors who may have or may know of companies working the wheat belt. First of all, you need to get land access and agreements with the farmers. That's already been done.
Okay.
So tick that box. That's an important one because that did help hold up our exploration in the Darling Range project for quite some time. It hasn't now, but it did. So tick that box. We can get on the ground. We've met with the farmer. He was one of the paddocks has been cropped already and harvested already, rather. That was the one with I think it was canola in that was canola. That one's been harvested already. The one with wheat is due to be harvested in December. Well, it should be late November, early December, but realistically, with the season we've had over here, it's likely to be sometime in December it will be harvested. That will give us complete access to the paddock from as soon as that paddock is harvested. So next year, I've already lined up a drill rig for early next year. We'll be in there drilling. And we're also, and I suppose I'll come back to other activities we've got planned. And probably if we just backtrack a little bit. So I mentioned that there are clay hosted deposits and hard rock hosted deposits. So there really has to be, because we don't know enough about the system yet, we need to do, if you like, a two-pronged approach. The first thing we'll be doing is testing the clay mineralisation in the area. And that will be done with air core drilling, and that will be done early next year. The other aspect, and understanding the system, is it a hard rock system? And if it is, they tend to have quite distinctive geophysical signatures. So, for example, we don't know what we've got yet, so I've got to stress that. But a carbonatite, which is one source of hard rock rare earths, has a very distinctive gravity signature and magnetic signature. There is a gravity signature and a gravity anomaly just to the east of these very, very high-grade rare earth samples that we've got. We don't know where that rare earth is coming from. If it's coming from a hard rock source, that gravity anomaly may well be part of the puzzle we need to work out. So we'll be doing a gravity survey in January as well to better define that gravity anomaly, and hopefully to give us a target for hard rock drilling that would be done after the gravity anomaly. So that will probably be done before the area is cropped again in May, June. So we've got to do two different styles of mineralisation exploration for the two different styles of potential rare earth mineralisation we've got. So it's what have we got coming up? Well, air core drilling at this stage in January, 20 holes we've planned. In our option agreement, we had committed to 10, but we'll be doing double that. And then we'll also be doing a gravity survey to better define that gravity anomaly, because we don't know what's causing that anomaly at this stage. Hopefully, it's part of an overall system that could be the source of that rare earth mineralisation, but we just don't know at this stage.
That number, the high grade zone of 46,700 parts per million, would that be, would that be more normal for a hard rock rather than a clay? Do you think that because of that normality, that's why you're sort of saying, well, this might not just be a clay, rare earth clays, this could be more like a hard rock and it just happened to have leached out into the clays? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, at a high level, yeah. I think geologically, and I've got to be very careful because I'm not an expert in rare earths. I'm getting people in to help understand and getting a team around us to understand all the implications. We're doing all kinds of scientific work, which I won't bore your listeners with, in the background. But at a high level, I think there are three options. The first would be we just happen to have stumbled across the highest grade clay deposit in the world. I think the chances of that are very, very slim to zero, to be honest.
Okay.
I'd like to be proven wrong, so please, if exploration could work on my side there and prove me wrong, that'd be great. I wouldn't complain, trust me. The second aspect could be there's a graphite occurrence nearby, and that may be the high rare earth occurrences may be as a result of the proximity of the graphite. Again, we don't know enough about the clay geochemistry, all of the background aspects of it, but that may be a reason for it. The third option is it's from a hard rock source nearby. So whether that be a carbonatite or a rare earth rich pegmatite, we just don't know. So there's lots of things we don't know here, but they're the three options. I'd like to be proven wrong on the first.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's got to come from somewhere. And yeah, I think on probability, it's probably more likely to be a hard rock source, or the interaction of the hard rock source and the graphite has created this incredibly high grade within the clay. So, but we don't know.
Okay, I love your honesty about that because, people could get overexcited and as Mike said, they don't know what it is at the moment, and those sorts of numbers could relate to a hard rock, which is a sort of a more normal number. If it's clays, as Mike said, it could be the highest rare earth in the world, but he thinks that's highly unlikely. So don't get overexcited just yet. It's early days. I just want to ask a little bit more around this option agreement and Hyden. It's down in the south. How big is it? And what's the option agreement? Like, you've got to do 10 holes, but you said you're going to do 20 by January, I think you said. What are the next steps? And when would the decision, it's kind of like final investment decision, really. When does that occur?
Yeah, I suppose that the best thing to understand for the listeners is there's a stage process we undertake here. So we're committed and paid $25,000 for the option. That option extends for 45 days after one of the tenements is coming up for renewal. So the option extends for 45 days after that tenement is renewed. Now, that's a very procedural aspect. It happens all the time in the mines department, and it's very procedural, but that needs to happen. I was never going to enter into agreement and pay $1 million worth of shares only to have a tenement expire at the end of January. Clearly, I wouldn't be doing that. So that's another reason why, in this case, an option agreement works so well. So that extends for 45 days post notification of the extension. Normally, so I'm walking through this quite carefully. That tenement is up for renewal at the end of January. Normally, it takes the mines department around 60 to 90 days to grant the extension of term, and we've got 45 days after that. So in reality, probably in March, end of March, April, we'd need to exercise the option. So it gives us plenty of time, plenty of runway to do all the exploration we need to do to understand the system.
Right.
On exercise, we have to issue $1 million worth of shares, and the vendors get 6 million options to options in Mamba, unlisted options, exercisable at 25 cents. So yeah, those options, while they get them, they only vest, so can only be exercised by them if we find a rare earth deposit greater than 30,000 tonnes of contained rare earths at a grade above 500 ppm. So again, that's a hurdle rate. So that's a defined hurdle. If we find a deposit and it's a JORC inferred, indicated or measured resource within 3 years, and it's greater than 30,000 tonnes of contained rare earths, then they get the option to exercise the option. Exercise the Mamba option to buy a share.
Right, got it.
It's a bit complicated because there's Mamba options, and we have an option over the property. So it's a little bit confusing, but that's the overall picture.
Well, I think it's a little bit confusing, but actually it's a little bit smart as well, because what you're saying is it's almost like performance rights. If we get to this level and what you've given us has got a value to it, then we're happy to exercise these shares at a strike rate of 25 cents. But only if we hit those hurdles, which I think is actually quite smart. Once again, protecting shareholders. Mike, we've run out of time, my friend.
Of course we have. We always do.
Every time I speak to you, it's like there's so much to chat about. So we'll have to talk again in the new year, because I'm very interested about this this Hyden rare earth project you've got. So keep us posted. I'm sure you will. Let's finish up with 3 reasons why you think now is the right time for people to be sitting up. Well, I think we've already told them, but let's just cover
pretty
it up.
much have. We've mentioned a fair bit of things we're doing. Now, look, it's been a challenging year for land access, but we've made some really good steps forward this year. But this is a really exciting time coming up, because we've now got land access for the Darling Range project. EM about to be undertaken at Darling Range, drilling on the Darling Range in January, drilling at Hyden in January, gravity survey in January at Hyden, EM survey up in the Kimberley in January as well. So we've got lots and lots of activity. So that's the first reason people should sit up and take note. There's lots happening. In fact, my field crew are quite dreading January and February, to be honest. The second aspect is we're well funded.
Okay.
We've got, at the end of last quarter, we had $2.7 million in the bank. So we are well funded. We're fully funded for all this exploration we want to undertake. There's no stress in terms of having to raise funds anytime soon, which is obviously very important. And really, the third point that I'd make is we are and will continue to be very protective of our capital structure and our shareholders' ownership in Mamba. So by doing these styles of deals, we protect our capital structure and protect our shareholders from unnecessary dilution. So we're looking after everybody's interests by being as frugal as we are, and I am frugal when it comes to spending money. We would love to be drilling all the time, but until the projects are worked up to a point where there are really good targets to drill, there's no point in burning cash and drilling for the sake of drilling's sake. So again, by making sure we work up the projects properly and not burn cash just for the sake of burning cash through drilling, we're being really careful. And now we've got to the point where we've worked these projects up and we've been drilling down south. We'll be drilling, that was last week. We're drilling, we'll be drilling in January at Darling Range and at Hyden. So we've got lots of news coming. So it's a pretty exciting time, actually.
All right. I think that was 3 points. I'm not quite sure, but I think the main thing to take out of this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is that Mike Dunbar, as the managing director of M24, is being cautious with shareholder funds, not going out spending willy-nilly, loving the way he's doing the option agreements. Don't know why more people don't do it, because it actually does protect that capital structure, which I think is good. But more importantly, they're not stopping over that sort of Christmas, New Year. Coming into January, they're going to be doing a lot of work. So plenty of news flow to come. Keep an eye out on it. As I said right at the start, the ASX code is M24. The market's taking notice. If this is what you think it is, it'll be a very interesting 2023 for Mamba. But for now, Mike Dunbar, great to see you. Let's talk again in February.
Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. And thanks to you, and thanks for Small Cap and the listeners for listening to my dulcet tones again. And I hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas and New Year period.
Yeah, I can't believe it's coming up to Christmas. Happy Christmas to you too, my friend. See you in 23.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.